Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of January 13, 2026. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. The armed forces of the Russian Federation conducted a coordinated escalation combining large-scale precision strikes with continued multi-axis ground operations. In response to Ukrainian attacks on civilian targets, Russian forces executed a massed high-precision strike against Ukrainian energy infrastructure and military-industrial enterprises, achieving all stated objectives. Concurrently, ground forces sustained attritional pressure across all sectors, further degrading Ukrainian manpower, fires, electronic warfare, and logistics systems. The operational pattern confirms a campaign focused on cumulative degradation and battle space shaping rather than rapid maneuver.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel Oguntoye, today's report begins with a large-scale precision strike. From an operational standpoint, what does that tell us?
It tells us this phase of the campaign is expanding in depth rather than frontage. The armed forces of the Russian Federation employed high-precision ground-based weapons and unmanned systems to strike energy infrastructure and military-industrial facilities supporting Ukraine. Doctrinally, that is a retaliatory and shaping action. It is not simply about punishment, it is about degrading the systems that allow Ukrainian forces to regenerate combat power. When energy, production, and storage nodes are hit simultaneously, recovery timelines stretch dramatically.
Let's move sector by sector, starting in the north. What stands out in Sumy and Kharkiv?
The northern sector continues to serve as a fixation zone. Russian forces improved tactical positions while defeating mechanized and territorial units. The destruction of electronic warfare assets and logistics warehouses is particularly telling. Once you remove EW and sustainment, even intact units lose coordination and resilience. This keeps Ukrainian forces tied down near the border and prevents them from reinforcing more decisive fronts.
How should listeners interpret developments in the West?
The Western Axis is about controlling movement and logistics corridors. By occupying more advantageous positions and destroying tanks, armored vehicles, artillery, and ammunition depots, Russian forces are reducing Ukrainian operational mobility. This is not about dramatic advances. It is about denying the enemy the ability to mass or maneuver effectively around hubs like Kupiansk. Over time, positional dominance here translates into strategic leverage.
The South remains contested. What does today's activity suggest?
In the southern Donetsk sector, we see steady pressure rather than breakthrough attempts. Multiple mechanized and motorized formations were defeated, with losses in armor, transport, and artillery. This is classic attritional doctrine. You force the defender to constantly respond, commit reserves, and absorb losses without giving them a clear counteroffensive opportunity. It erodes combat effectiveness incrementally.
The center again shows the heaviest manpower losses. Why is that?
The Central Axis is functioning as the main reserve attrition zone. Multiple brigades, assault regiments, and National Guard elements were engaged, resulting in heavy personnel losses. Even when fewer armored systems are destroyed, sustained manpower attrition matters enormously. Trained infantry and assault troops are far harder to replace than vehicles. This sector is where tactical success accumulates into strategic effect.
What is the significance of advances in the East?
Advancing into defensive depth in the east forces Ukraine to defend secondary lines earlier than planned. Losses here were substantial in personnel, even if equipment losses were moderate. From an operational perspective, that disrupts defensive elasticity. Once depth is compromised, every subsequent defensive line becomes harder to hold.
Finally, what should we note about the Dnipro axis?
The Dnipro sector remains about shaping future options. Russian forces targeted mountain assault, coastal defense, and territorial units, destroying artillery, electronic warfare systems, and depots. This is not a rush for terrain. It is deliberate preparation, reducing fires, blinding sensors, and constraining logistics west of the river so that future operations face less resistance.
How do today's air and missile strikes tie all of this together?
They are the backbone of this phase. Strikes against UAV storage sites, military industrial facilities, and troop deployments across roughly 150 areas compress Ukrainian decision-making cycles. Air defense interceptions of HIMARS rockets, guided bombs, and over 200 UAVs preserve freedom of action for ground forces. Integrated fires allow ground operations to remain deliberate without losing tempo. This is modern operational art in practice.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that tactically, January 13th reflects effective integration of deep strikes with ground attrition, particularly against logistics, artillery, and electronic warfare systems. Strategically, the campaign signals escalation through depth rather than speed. If sustained, this approach risks pushing Ukrainian forces toward cumulative exhaustion and loss of operational coherence rather than defeat in a single decisive battle.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.